July 31, 2023. Hello, Rainy Cascadia and Judith Linford, Seek and You Shall Find. And I think I saw Lindy London. Hello. That seems to be it. Oh, Barb in Ohio. Hi, Barb. Okay. Well, here's current radar. Still have the rolling. The hurricane of nanobots stretching from New Mexico through Arizona, now into Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. This is interesting. Wow. That's a pointy storm, huh? Well, we know it's manufactured and it's not Mother Nature. I should preface this live with, I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I hate saying this because I say it too often, but I am very tired. Look at what is happening in Florida. Look at this. Like, the entire state is engulfed in severe weather. Just about the entire state. And it looks like a subscriber I know is having thunderstorms where he lives. I'll show you the captures that I took earlier. Let's see, the 31st at 6:33.
It's a law, but there's ways to say it like it's a law.
6:33 a.m. Look at this. Look at this, what's twirling around in Missouri into Arkansas. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, into Wisconsin. Blasted with extremely low frequencies. And yes, you do have to wonder, because all we can do is speculate, but are they using this to keep people down, influence their emotions, mind control? Well, but these storms, look at this hit of frequencies up here at the top of the storm. But really, when did we ever have storms that looked like, swirling, just a swirling blob of rain? Severe storms. This makes me very concerned, because this has been ongoing now for months. So, how are you guys feeling in this, if you happen to live in this area? That's not good. 6:33 a.m. Then another one at 8:50 a.m. still blasting away. And look at the southern border, the Gulf down here. Whole lot of frequencies. Wow. Well, people have said, or people have asked, when is World War III going to start? It started. It just hasn't been declared. They'll declare it when there's actually the traditional war going on, but we've been at war for a very, very long time. Look at this. Right on into, well, from Texas into Louisiana. It's a mess. Our atmosphere has been taken over by evil, clearly, as you can see. So how are you guys in Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio and Indiana and Illinois? So, I will throw the link in the chat for a what's up with that, which is essentially a blog of scientists, blog of climatologists who are not going along with the narrative. How to push a climate crisis hoax. Florida's record ocean temperature. And in the live that may have been taken down, or maybe it was last night, I can't remember, I did go on our national buoy site to show that what they were saying about the 101 water temp in the Keys in Florida, not true. The formula is very simple. Take an extreme temperature limited to a period of a few days from only one extremely tiny location, then encourage clickbait media to push the narrative that it represents the climate crisis caused by CO2 and threatening the whole Earth. And the buoy in Manatee Bay, I actually showed you, it was not what they were saying, what they were reporting on mainstream media. It was about 20 degrees lower, but who cares? Mainstream media, they are the authoritative source. Oh. So a buoy in Manatee Bay, managed by the Everglades National Park, is located north of Key Largo and indicated by the two red arrows in the illustration. The official buoy data shows water temperatures bounced between 90 and 101 on consecutive 2 days, then plummeted to 85, 86 Fahrenheit over the following days. Clearly, those water temperatures were being driven by dynamics other than rising CO2. Yes. The Manatee Bay buoy, measuring water temperature at a 5-foot depth, is located in a small embayment surrounded by landform that prevents mixing with cooler water and forms a natural hot tub, as seen in the enlarged illustration on the left. It's literally, yeah, okay, everything I just read is true, as you can see. Well, that doesn't make it much bigger. So, low winds and a high pressure system further helped heat the bay, while muddy waters darkened the water, enhancing solar heating. To maintain the crisis hoax, it's also important to ignore conflicting data, of course. Southern Florida has several buoys, some measuring water temperatures, some air temperature, and some both. Just 56 miles to the southwest of Manatee Bay, the VAKF-1 buoy measured water temperature that were 10 degrees lower than the Manatee Bay on the same days. The hottest temperature ever recorded in the state of Florida was 109 degrees on June 29, 1931. In Monticello, located over 400 miles north of Everglades National Park. And according to Wikipedia, a whole lot of mainstream media relies on Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, Everglades National Park's average maximum air temperatures for July is the average temperature is 92.5 Fahrenheit. And the record high for July was 102. Nevertheless, Washington Post pushed extremely warm waters linked to record-setting heat over South Florida. The extreme ocean heat comes amid Florida's hottest July on record. That's what they're saying. Trying to keep the climate crisis hoax alive. It's a good site. You might want to bookmark. I'll put the link in again. Just for those who actually circulate information. Circulate it to those who are, oh my God, we had water temperatures of 101. What I thought was interesting, though, in this, I think it was in this, here. The buoy depth is, it writes in here, the buoy depth is only 5 feet. Only 5 feet. And they took the temperature from waters that were pretty much the held prison by land, pretty much. 5 feet? That's it? Well, on a really hot day, if you're taking buoy temperatures at 5 feet, that seems a little bizarre to me. Anyway, tornadoes. Oh, where is WFSB? Why do I do this? Be helpful if I wrote it down. Connecticut, that's right.
We're now getting our first look at storm damage in the northeast corner, and that's where we find Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Mike Cerullo with the latest. Mike.
Hey, Brian, we're live in Hampton right now. We're along Route 97. It's hard to see right now, but the road behind me is actually closed. There's down trees, down power lines. We've seen a couple in this area, some trees, some power lines down, just a lot of damage from that storm and that tornado as well that rolled through earlier today. Now, we also had some photos sent in. I want to show you these of that tornado, what appears to be that tornado forming in the sky. Take a look at these. You've got these photos showing the dark clouds, what appears to be a tornado forming in the area. The second photo taken earlier this evening facing towards Hampton soon after that storm did rip through this area, causing plenty of damage. State Senator Jeff Gordon, who represents the area, says most of the damage is focused around Hampton and Chaplin. Now, Route 97, a main road connecting Hampton to Pomfret, is blocked off in the area because of downed trees and power lines. Gordon says several secondary roads are also blocked off. He says crews are out right now starting to take a look at the damage.
I can't listen to this guy. He's repulsive to me. Yeah, tornadoes now. It's a common occurrence up in New England, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. Just recently had a tornado. People just don't question anything. Oh, wow. Tornado in Windham County causes minor infrastructure damage, but the power outages, the trees down. Fox 61. What am I doing? Connecticut.
Well, today was a very nice contrast to last night. It was sunny. People were outside enjoying the day. And I spoke with one neighbor here in Chaplin who says that she's just so happy that there's not a lot of damage.
The whole sky, it was really bright, and then all of a sudden it was like wicked dark.
Mother Nature can be beautiful, and she can also be scary, especially for people living in eastern Connecticut this weekend. The National Weather Service confirming a tornado touchdown Saturday evening in Windham County.
I was like, what do we do? I don't know what to do.
Christina Trifoni lives in Chaplin, where a few trees came down.
It was not far. Like I probably could have walked to it. It was that close. So it was pretty scary.
An act of nature people aren't used to seeing.
This time of year, no, we're not that used to it. To get a tornado is quite unusual for us in this part of the state.
State Senator Jeff Gordon says there wasn't any major infrastructure damage, just trees and power lines down.
The town crews, some state crews, I know the Eversource and those folks were out really trying to get things cleared as much as possible.
But that wasn't the only place that was impacted by severe weather last night. Here in Voluntown, trees uprooted, leaving families cleaning up.
Last night was different. All of a sudden, like torrential downpour.
Resulting in snapped trees across her yard and one across her father's garage roof. Even a snapped tree branch piercing through the garage.
And opened the door to see what was happening, and there was just stuff flying through the air. And then we could hear this big crack and crash and trees coming down.
While cleanup in these communities is well underway and some even finished, the storm's still leaving people a little shaken up.
It was really intense, like the most intense storm that I've ever seen here. I do not want to experience something like that again. It was very, very upsetting.
These storms are very, very upsetting. Connecticut. This doesn't happen in Connecticut. Oh, but it does now. Well, don't believe in climate change. Now, I'm going to say once again, I know there's more damage out there. And I don't think mainstream media, even local, is reporting on an awful lot. You know, here, 2 days ago in Andrew, Iowa, tornado damage. I can't play this video, it's Live Storm's video, but you listen to the winds, and this thing is, you know, just sailing down the street. So trees down, of course, and power outages and tornadoes all over the place. And I will put the link in the chat if you want to check it out. And Westfield, Massachusetts, a rotating storm and damage. Well, again, Live Storms Media, and I'll put the link in the chat. And so, it's everyone, this was 3 days ago. These are what I could not find mainstream media or look how hollow this tree is. Look how hollow. Unbelievable. Power lines down, power outages, of course. And really, okay, these clouds are humongous, and they're pretty scary when you're looking at them, when you're under them. So, you know, Mother Nature, walk in the park compared to what man is doing. Washington, D.C., without mercy, supercell, battered. Okay, this was another video on what took place in the D.C. area.
Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia are in recovery mode after bad weather battered trees in the area and cut power to thousands of people across the region. After a multi-day heat wave brought dangerously high temperatures to the area, the storm was accompanied by wind gusts above 55 miles per hour into the capital region. The storm knocked down power lines, trees, and several buildings in the area, creating a major challenge for energy service providers. More than 200,000 Pepco customers lost power after the storm finished hitting the region on Saturday. By 9 a.m. Sunday, more than 16,000 were still in the dark. In a statement on Twitter, Pepco said they expected full services to be restored by Tuesday afternoon. Adi Kauslarich, a spokeswoman for the utility, said the restoration of power continued through the night as crews worked to restore power throughout the area. Safety is our top priority. We are in contact with local emergency management agencies and are working with them to address life-threatening and safety situations, said Kauslarich. As quickly as we can to get everyone back as quickly as possible, said Yost. Officials with utilities, local as a cooling center. The storm appears to have done more than slow traffic and turn off the traffic lights used by DC area drivers. On Saturday night, the storm moved through Northern Virginia on Saturday afternoon. Trees were downed across the George Washington Memorial Parkway. There were other fallen trees in the George Washington Memorial Parkway and Clara Barton Parkway areas, and the National Park Service is continuing to assess the damage and remove trees, the agency said in a statement. Anyone who finds a fallen tree along the GW Parkway can report the problem to the U.S. Parks Police. Saturday afternoon, trees were downed.
So, this is the tomb of the unknown soldier. Does somebody walk this 24/7? They can't even come in during a storm?
Across the George Washington Memorial Parkway. There were other.
Well, it's kind of like the Buckingham Palace guards. Sky attacks Mexico without mercy. Storm and flood damage. 600 homes got damaged.
The storm, accompanied by hail and gusts of strong winds, caused much havoc in the capital city of Sonora. And the natural phenomenon that hit the streets of the region on the evening of July 29th caused not only flooding but also the uprooting of trees, billboards. In addition, in other audio-visual materials recorded at gas stations, you can see how the wind drags down the rain so that it looks like a blizzard. The Municipal Civil Protection Coordination, CMPC, reported that there were gusts of up to 64.7 kilometers per hour in Hermosillo Norte, in the Misiones neighborhood, and accumulated rainfall of up to 37.08 millimeters in Pedregal de la Villa, south.
All right, I can't listen to that. It's really... You know, so many people around the world know that this weather is controlled. And we just can't do anything to stop it. Nothing, really. Nothing. Well, like the U.S., Mexico gets battered an awful lot. I mean, people are losing their homes, losing everything, and it's a daily occurrence. And China, man, they are relentless right now.
看看看看，这都是真的，这都是真的。我操！我操！我操！
妈耶！瞧瞧，我的个天呀！哎呦妈哟！
Beijing was on high alert as tropical storm Doksuri hit the capital on its northward path, killing 2 people and forcing at least 31,000 from their homes. The People's Daily reported on Monday that 2 people were found dead in a river in Mengutu, a district in western Beijing that has seen some of the worst flooding. According to state broadcaster CCTV, China Meteorological Administration said. Roads, with services halted on hundreds of bus services and some train routes across the city, according to state news agency Xinhua. 3 trains were stranded on their way to Beijing, according to media reports. Beijing Traffic Radio reported on Monday that the 65-mile, 105 kilometers, Fengsha Railway, which links Beijing's western Fengtai district with Shaoqing in Hebei, had suffered serious water damage, disrupting travel. Nearly 2,000 train passengers and crew were evacuated from the 2 trains. Between 8 p.m. on Saturday and 1 p.m. on Monday, the average rainfall in Beijing was 176.9 millimeters, with the maximum rainfall in parts of Mengutu reaching 580.9 millimeters, according to the city observatory. The storm also forced Beijing Capital International Airport to cancel 40 flights. Work was halted at more than 4,000 construction sites, nearly 20,000 buildings were inspected for damage, and scenic spots in the city were closed, media reports said. About 80 employees from a logistics company's distribution station in Zucudian Township in Fangshan were stranded by flooding caused by the storm. The emergency rescue of these people is ongoing. A tour group of 45 seniors from Beijing traveling to the city of Baoding in neighboring Hebei province were stopped for the elderly. A section of road about 24 square meters outside there was no safety impact on the building. The road repair work continues. A railway bridge in Shijiazhuang, North China's Hebei province collapsed on Sunday due to the effects of flooding. As of 8:30 a.m. Monday, a total of 227 bus lines have been affected, with 182 bus lines suspending operations. Forecasters warn that Typhoon Khanun is approaching and will hit China's densely populated coast this week. Authorities say Khanun could inflict further damage on maize and other crops that have been hit by Doksuri. Doksuri made landfall as a typhoon in southeastern China early Friday, causing landslides and flooding in Fujian province before moving north to bring extreme rainfall to Beijing in neighboring provinces. While such storms are common in southeastern China in the summer, it is unusual for them to affect the north of the country. As of Monday morning, the National Meteorological Center, NMC, maintained a red alert for rain, forecasting heavy rain over large parts of Hebei, Beijing, Tianjin, and parts of eastern North China's Shaanxi province. China's Ministry of Water Resources issued a notice Monday morning of flooding in the waters of the Haihe River and maintained a level 2 control work in the affected areas. The Flood Control Authority in Baoding, Hebei launched a level reaching over 400 millimeters in places.
I think a whole lot of us have become very desensitized to this destruction. Like, it's common now, right? So, it's nothing. The Cobalt Challenge, the dark side of the energy transition. I listened to 22 minutes of this documentary. I will link to it below. It's pretty horrific. Talk about slavery, how it has not ended. I'll play a few minutes of it.
In the race to slow climate change, cobalt has become key to the transition away from fossil fuels. But who's paying the price? Car makers are ringing in a new era. VW, Renault, BMW, Volvo, all the big names are converting their fleets to electric. Environmental concerns are driving the transition. Consumer and commercial internal combustion vehicles produce about a quarter of all the greenhouse gas emissions in Europe.
Also Volkswagen hat in Summe Volkswagen invested 1.2 billion euros in this site. It's dedicated especially to the 6 great cars we've started making here. Everything was adapted, and now we're 100% electric. We build 100% electric cars here.
Elektrisch hier unterwegs. Wir bauen 100% elektrische Autos hier.
Starting in 2035, the EU intends to prohibit the sale of new cars with internal combustion engines. The far-reaching decision impacts the whole production chain.
If you want to achieve the climate neutrality in 30 years, we need to use all the technologies which are available. We are now undisputed number one if it comes to investment into the battery sector. So we are super hot zone for investment into the batteries. It means that currently we have 70 projects ongoing. We have more than 120 billion euros of investment over the last 3 years, which is 3.5 times more than the money invested in China in the same sector. And that we are going to create a lot of jobs and, as I said, completely new industry.
Most electric car batteries in Europe are based on nickel manganese cobalt, or NMC technology, which allows them to travel around 400 kilometers after one charge. The batteries contain lithium and about 10 kilograms of cobalt.
If you look at the average high capacity battery cell, the sort of thing used in Tesla or Volkswagen ID.3, most of it is nickel. Nickel is what gives the battery its extremely high range. Cobalt's effectively the safety mechanism. So you put a little bit of cobalt in your battery, and that means that you won't have battery fires and your cells will remain stable under.
Oh, I guess there's not too much cobalt in the electric vehicles that are on the road.
Extreme duress. The vast majority of cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And that's essentially because there isn't really anywhere else in the world which has the same grades or mineralogy for cobalt as the Congo. There isn't really any other country in the world which can claim to have the same quality of deposits, quality of reserves. It's almost like the Saudi Arabia of cobalt.
Congo has been blessed or cursed, depending on how one looks at it, with extraordinary geological mineral wealth. And it's always been strategic, whether it was in the 19th century, rubber, or the middle of the 20th century, uranium, or more recently, the question of strategic critical minerals for the agenda that the international community has adopted, the consensus that we need to move to carbon neutral emissions in the world requires electric vehicles, it requires renewable energy, all of which require strategic minerals coming out of the Congo. First and foremost, one could say, would be cobalt.
Kolwezi is the cobalt capital of the world. We're here in the heart of the Copper Belt, an industrial region located in the southern part of DRC and neighboring Zambia. A century of mining has shaped the landscape. The DRC's biggest copper and cobalt reserves are located in the provinces of Lualaba and Upper Katanga. Foreign corporations are exploiting this immense wealth. Of the 19 copper-cobalt mines in the region, 15 are owned by the Chinese. They share the business with the Swiss Glencore Group, which operates 2 of the world's most productive mines, and Eurasian Resources Group.
Cobalt is transported normally by truck down to South Africa. It's loaded on ships in Durban, and then it's shipped from Durban to China, where it's processed into battery chemicals, and from there it ends up in the wider supply chain. Right now, global demand for cobalt is in the region of 140,000 tons, 150 maybe, but we're expecting that to rise to 250 in the next 5 years. There's a lot of new demand which is going to come onto the market, and we're going to need to find supply for it.
Là, ce sont les installations de la Sycomine. Mais vous voyez déjà l'impact.
The consequences are already apparent at the facilities of the Chinese-Congolese company Sycomine. Do you see those trucks over there, dumping out waste? That's what I call overburden, or tailings from the mines. Mountains of it have been built up where there weren't any 5 years ago. During the dry season, the dust drifts down onto the fields here. Then there's a thick layer of dust on the plants around us. That's why people are growing hardly anything at all here.
Dans cette zone ici, les gens ne cultivent presque plus.
Because of the dust that comes from the tailings piles over there?
Because of the dust, but also because of the water quality in the river in front of us.
The water in their basins overflows, and the acid in it spoils their fields.
How old is the manioc here?
3 years.
3 years?
Almost nothing's on it.
Could you dig out a root? Thanks. Yes, that's quite small.
After 3 years,
it should be much bigger.
What do you live on when the manioc crop is poor?
we pick the manioc leaves and sell them on the market in order to get money to buy food.
Does Sycomine know about this problem?
Yes, to begin with, they supplied us with drinking water, but that's over. Perhaps they thought it's not so bad if they die.
What do you want from Sycomine?
Sycomine should come and have a look at how we live here. That applies to the government too. We're citizens, aren't we?
You know me. I come here regularly. You say our work isn't progressing. But since we took over your case, we haven't given up. When your representatives come to Kolwezi, they see that we are putting pressure on the authorities. We've just taken up the case again. It's now with an advisor to the governor. Thanks for your attention. We'll stay in contact with your community leader. Goodbye. When a mine is opened, the people lose their farmland, the villages get poisoned, and the residents have to give up their traditional way of life. Nobody goes into the bush anymore to gather caterpillars and insects, because there aren't any there. No one fishes in the river anymore, because there's no more fish when the water flows through the mining area. There has to be clear policy guidance that mine operators provide compensation for consequences like these. But as I said, the Congolese government is staying out of it completely, and the mining companies and the end users of the cobalt are ignoring the problem.
The industrial mines in Lualaba and Upper Katanga produce 80% of Congolese cobalt. The remaining 20% comes from artisanal mining. Beneath the orange tarps, prospectors work in shafts deep below the surface. Donatan Bila is one of them. He's also one of 150,000 people who've streamed in from across the country. Driven by poverty, they're hoping to get a piece of the pie.
Life in Kinshasa was hard. I'd lost my job. They fired me. My family said, "You can't go on like this. Without work, I couldn't pay the rent, could I?" They said, "Go to Kolwezi. There's cobalt there and you can earn a living." So I came here and became a cobalt prospector. I'd never done it before.
Oui, tu peux prendre quelque chose. Voilà, c'est ça. This is mining with your hands. You go down the shaft, break up the stone with a crowbar, and fill the sacks. Then the carriers go down and bring the sacks up. We dig and fill the sacks. Then we've done our jobs. The carriers carry it out, pulling one bag after the other to the surface. The women then wash the ore in the lake. We pay the women and the carriers and sell the ore at the warehouse.
And many of those carriers are children. Our children. Okay. Put the link in again. Very good documentary on how green is our green energy. Seems to be destroying the environment quite a lot. This Tim Truth, I will put his Rumble link in the chat. I recommend that you follow and subscribe on YouTube. But let's just listen to this for a few minutes. Yeah, I know. You know all about it. But this is where we're going. It's the death planet.
Hey everyone, we're seeing a big push around the world to ban gas, especially in use in homes. Banning gas. This is so outrageous. And Victoria is taking the lead. Victoria is banning the use of gas in any new homes starting in 2024. So just months away from Victoria, Australia, banning any homeowner of a new home from using gas. Using gas! No new gas connections on new homes starting in just a few months. January 1st, 2024. This is net zero depopulation bullshit. A direct assault to the people of Victoria, Australia, and a pilot for what they want to pull around the world. We can't let them. This is absolutely outrageous. This is a depopulation scheme. They don't want people to have cheap energy. They want everyone to have to be reliant on the energy system, which they can turn off for anybody or for everybody. This is absolutely a nightmare. Victoria, Australia is under attack by its own misleaders. So the communists are totally out of control and doing the bidding of insane, megalomaniac, genocidal oligarchs. Their latest move, their latest attack, banning gas use for new homes. Banning all gas use for new homes in Victoria. This is clearly about depopulation. This is clearly about stopping the development of new homes so that increased populations can't be supported. This is absolutely disgusting. And this also seems to apply to commercial buildings. So new buildings for businesses won't be able to use gas. What about restaurants? I mean, this is so absolutely insane. They don't want us to have cheap fuel. They don't want us to have cheap energy. They want to break our backs to heat our homes, to cook our food, to make us dependent on the state, dependent on corporations, dependent on being a slave. This is horrifying, and we've seen similar moves in several United States and in many European countries as well. But this is the first I've heard of such an immediate, total ban starting next year in 2024, just a few months away.
Sorry, I forgot to hit enter. So, why don't we do copy, and we'll do delete, and then, oh, there it went. Just to make sure, I'll do it again. And I'll put the link into the video if you want to see any more of this. But really, when I listen to these, videos, and I'm thinking, my God, it's like these people, act like abusive parents, and we act like the abused children. Can't seem to just do anything about them. They're just destroying our lives, and, well, it's kind of what the psychopathic, narcissistic parents do to their children. Ah, what a shame. Never realized our own power. So, mass panic erupts at Ontario Mills Mall in Ontario, California. Oh, wow. Okay. A mass shooter, I guess.
What the fuck is happening, bro? They firing shots out here, boy. We out of this hole. We out of this hole. We out of this hole. What the fuck?
America, America.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to read.
This is interesting. Okay, so the aliens have spoken. They've delivered a message. Listen to the message.
2 pages from advice from the extraterrestrials. Yes, it's true that we have been in contact with your government and heads of power. It is also true that we have been It is also true that agreements have been made and kept secret from your people. It is also true that in the past, some of your people have lost their lives or have been badly hurt to protect the secret. Our hands had no part in this. We contacted your leaders because your planet is in grave trouble. Your leaders said the vast majority of your population wasn't ready for anything like us yet. So we made time agreements with your leaders as to when your people would be made aware of our presence. Your air, your water are contaminated. Your forests, jungles, trees, and plant life are dying. There are several breaks in your food chain. You have an overwhelming amount of nuclear and biological weapons, which include nuclear and biological contamination. Your planet is overpopulated. Warning, it is almost to the point of being too late, unless your people act. There are better ways of deriving energy and food needs without causing your planet any damage. Those in power are aware of this and have the capability of putting these methods into worldwide use. Those in power view it as a military and security threat. That upset me. You mean to tell me that the people in power have the ability to save and better the planet, and they aren't doing it? Amnesty. What do you mean? Complete amnesty to those in power, governments and leaders who have been suppressing the truth, that they can't be held liable for any past wrong deeds. It is the only way these leaders can come forward with the truth. It is necessary that you do this in order to work together and survive.
Oh, so let all the leaders go free. And then they'll speak the truth. Oh, and the aliens have spoken. Yeah. It seems maybe the aliens were talking about that green energy. And that's why we're doing it so fast, because the aliens have spoken. Ah, finally. What the? Yeah. Our headquarters in San Francisco tonight, Elon Musk. Twitter is now X. X. Our headquarters in San Francisco tonight. We took down our Twitter sign, got rid of that bird, and we put up a very bright sign of a letter X. Well, not so fast, because people in San Francisco, we want to walk down the street without having to step over poop, needles, and homeless while witnessing stores getting looted. City of San Francisco. Best we can do is force Elon to remove the X sign. The X sign from Twitter headquarters. Oops. Get rid of it. The X is down. Whoa, this is breaking news. Yeah, breaking news. The X sign is down. I think we have more breaking news that is really important, but hey, yeah, when the city wants to do something, they get it done. Hell, they get it done the next morning. Boom, gone. Makes you wonder, what else could they get done? Maybe they haven't gotten the message from the aliens yet. Listen to this.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. I would say.
For those of you who don't know, this is a representative, a congressional representative. She's in the House of Representatives. This woman is supposed to represent the American people, but for sure, her constituents in the district that they, I guess, supposedly voted for her. And I'm sure there are some white people in that district that she's representing. Let me play it again.
Say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. I would say our country.
Well, if she's talking about Fauci and Bill Gates, you know, people like that, then she's right. Yeah, but I don't think she is. So, this is our country today. Does she need to be held accountable? For sure. Will we? No. Devin Archer. He spilled the beans. He spilled the beans. He tells Congress about shady Burisma dealings, Joe Biden's more than 20 conversations. Oh boy, this family still goes on, man. Untouched. Well, guess what? The American people, hello, you gotta touch them. Archer also told the House Oversight and Accountability Committee that Hunter Biden was hired to sit on the board of Burisma because his family's brand had value at a time when the firm was facing corruption allegations from not only Ukraine's own prosecutor general's office, but the U.S. and Great Britain as well. Devin Archer testified that the value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma's board was the brand. Stated that Burisma would have gone under if not for the brand. We have these people who are so disgustingly corrupt, and we don't do anything. It's amazing. Rand Paul files criminal referral against absolute liar Fauci. Well, it's a step in the right direction, but really, criminal referral to the Department of Justice, I don't know what the process is, but clearly this guy has lied. But he's lied about a lot of things. This referral is in relation to the lies he told about gain of function. Well, I'd like to see him prosecuted for something else. That new product that really he made an awful lot of money from, and a whole lot of people didn't, well, there's not much I can say because I already got medical misinformation on Never Lose Truth 1, so I'll shut up. But you know it anyway.
The housing market is a catastrophe.
Record rental prices across the United States.
And something's got to give.
Living in America is freaking ridiculous right now.
I can't afford any of these apartments.
$1,800 for a one-bedroom apartment.
$1,400 for 485 square feet.
I guess I just live in my truck.
Over a third of Americans are renters, and if you're in that category, you probably don't need to be told that the rental market is out of control. The question is, can anything actually be done about it? A historic wave of tenant organizing, unlike anything we've seen in decades, has found one answer: national rent control.
The tenant movement is absolutely within striking distance of rent regulation at the national level.
But it's not just tenants who are organized. This is also a story about how some of America's biggest landlords, banks, and private equity firms are hiding behind innocent-sounding front groups, all while pooling their money to keep your rent high.
I moved into Waldo Heights in 2018, so I've been here 5 years now. And every year since I've been here, my rent has increased. Every time my rent is raised, I'm at a crossroads of being evicted.
Millions of renters like Val are trapped in a rental market that's built to empower abusive landlords who can raise rents each year while allowing conditions to get worse and worse.
The mice, the roach infestations, sometimes they don't pick up our garbage. When I first moved here, I was told that the security gate was going to be fixed. The gate is still not fixed, and so people come in and they sleep in our hallways. I'm afraid sometimes to come in my building at night. My landlord is Landmark Realty, corporation based in California. They don't care. They just don't care.
Since the last financial crisis, rental units are increasingly owned and operated by corporations like Landmark that are accountable, first and foremost, to their private investors. For tenants like Val, legal protections against abusive landlords are often limited. But she discovered one powerful way to fight back.
So me and my neighbor, my best friend down the hall from me, we just said one day, she was like, let's call KC Tenants. And I said, okay. So I called and I left a message on the hotline. And a couple of days later, I got a phone call back.
A group called KC Tenants were fighting to stop eviction hearings at the Jackson County Courthouse.
Evictions will kill people like me.
Charged crowd packed City Hall for more than 3 hours. The yellow shirts in the room are tenants, each with their own personal story.
In a national housing crisis where rent inflation has vastly outpaced income growth, groups like KC Tenants have given their members power to take on their landlords.
We have written and passed a tenant's bill of rights. We've won free lawyers for every tenant facing eviction. We've organized buildings and neighborhoods. And just recently, we elected 4 members of city council.
And that movement seems to be growing.
Places like Louisville, Kentucky, Bozeman, Montana, Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
The current surge in tenant organizing is the most significant since the 1970s, and it's allowing renters to fight for the kind of big relief that only the federal government can enact.
So, in comments that I've received when I have shown these kinds of videos, they say, oh, well, the tenants aren't paying their rent and there's a moratorium, and we're not talking about that. We are talking about people who are being pushed out. They're good tenants, they pay their rent, and they're being pushed out by a whole lot of greed. I mean, it comes down to greed. And this is really just, well, gotta organize, you gotta organize, you gotta organize. So, heinous crimes committed by illegal migrants under scrutiny ahead of 2024. Yes, the presidential candidates are coming out hard about get that border security, get it done. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has arrested more than 9,200 migrants with criminal convictions so far this year, fiscal year, which started in October. More than 1,400 were charged with driving under the influence, and over 1,400 were charged with illegal drug possession or trafficking. Illegal migrants have been responsible for several high-profile crimes in the past few months. Last week, a group of migrants outside of a shelter in New York City beat 2 men to the point that they needed to be hospitalized. Dallas police earlier this month announced the arrest of reported illegal migrant Oscar Sanchez Garcia, who is now facing multiple charges related to the deaths of 3 women. A machete fight earlier this month in Boston led to the arrest of 3 illegal migrant brothers. An illegal immigrant from Cuba was convicted of first-degree murder in Minnesota after he beheaded his girlfriend with a machete. Texas officials announced the arrest of illegal migrant Francisco Oropesa, sorry, I got distracted, who was wanted in connection to 5 murders near Houston after he had been deported 5 times. Do you think we have a problem? I think we have a problem. We have a very big problem. And it's gonna come to so many people's door because it's getting more out of control.
New this morning, migrants are still camped outside the packed Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, spending consecutive nights on the sidewalk. Mayor Eric Adams says the hotel has no more room.
This comes as the city announced plans to open another emergency shelter as the Big Apple continues to struggle with the daily influx of migrants coming from the southern border. Fox News correspondent C.B. Cotton is in New York City with the story.
New York City says without more help from the state or federal government, we may see more migrants and asylum seekers sleeping on the streets. This comes as migrants continue to arrive to the city daily. For many of them, the first stop is to the Roosevelt Hotel. The hotel opened back in May as the city's main arrival center, providing legal, medical, and other services, and offering housing for families with children. But throughout the weekend, dozens of migrants were told there was no space inside. And
this is not going to end well. This is not going to end well.
This is such a mess. Just watch this.
I'm a reporter in New York City, and this is what I'm covering this Monday morning. I took this video at around 4:30 this morning outside the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan on 45th Street. This is actually on 46th Street, but I'm just showing on this side to show the line of migrants that are sleeping on the sidewalk. Now, these are asylum seekers. They arrived in New York City a couple of days ago, hoping to get processed at the Roosevelt Hotel. Now, this was an iconic hotel. It's been in movies, but it shut down about 3 years ago and reopened earlier this year as an intake center for asylum seekers. seekers. Now, this weekend, they were at capacity, so these migrants were left to sleep on the sidewalk. You can see the only thing separating them from the concrete is cardboard. Except for these folks here, you can see them sleeping right on the concrete, right on the sidewalk directly. If you've been following news out of New York City, you know that this isn't new. This has been happening for the past couple of months. There have been more than 93,000 asylum seekers that have arrived here in the city since the spring. Officials have said that this migrant crisis is costing the city billions of dollars, at least $4 billion, and Mayor Eric Adams is asking for more federal help.
So, these people have been told to come here. Yes, the Biden administration, the United Nations, the NGOs, all involved in virtually every country all over the world, are telling people, go west, young man, go west. And then they get here, and there's no more room at the inn. Wow. Migrants being housed in luxury Chelmsford apartments. They're getting everything.
It's billed as one of Chelmsford's most sought-after residential complexes. A multi-million-pound conversion of an old office block into luxury apartments. The marketing photographs show just how comfortable these flats are. But for now at least, none of the 98 units here are for local use, turned over instead to the Home Office to house asylum seekers. Dozens of migrants have already moved in. The refurbishment work on the remaining apartments is almost complete.
The mould was all up there, all around, down the floors, along all the pipework and across the ceiling and just running down the walls. It was absolutely disgusting.
Tasha Burgess moved into this damp and mould-infested property in Chelmsford 5 years ago. Only last year was the family finally moved out while those problems were fixed. But not before she and her children developed chronic respiratory ailments.
It's very frustrating that people can come illegally and get the accommodation when you've got people that are homeless, not by fault, that need accommodation as well. And a lot of families that are not in suitable accommodation size either, and it's squashed in flats and stuff, waiting on lists for months and months, or years even.
The local council says it has only limited grounds for a legal challenge against the Home Office and does not intend to take court action. Local campaign groups say the housing of asylum seekers in luxury apartments is grossly unfair when more than 400 Chelmsford families are in temporary accommodation, many of those properties in substandard condition.
They are illegally here and yet they're living in absolute luxury, and I think that's what's frustrating and annoying so many people, is that they're getting everything, and people living in some of these places that we see last year during the damp and mould, you wouldn't have put a dog in it because it was disgusting.
With the BB Stockholm accommodation barge receiving its first asylum seekers and more arriving at the former Wethersfield Air Base in Essex, the government says it's committed to moving away from expensive hotels. But this luxury apartment complex surely cannot be what the Home Secretary meant by a move to more basic accommodation for asylum seekers. Mark White, GB News in Chelmsford.
Okay, I need to ask again. The migrant issue is a distraction. Really? What is it distracting people from? I've got to ask. Look, there's another balloon. This is a distraction? Okay, everything's a distraction then. This is in Hull. Where's the Hull being culturally enriched in broad daylight?
Oh my God, the flying shit about. What was the car? Get back. Where the coppers from. Fucking crazy bastards. How long have you got the car? It's like the police all coming up. Oh my God. Fucking hell, I know the car. Fucking look at his head. Absolutely rude.
But it's a distraction. There, yeah. Move every migrant out of hotels and into migrant camps, just as we did in the 40s. All right, you can listen to this if you'd like. The link is below. So, the daughter of Klaus Schwab, like father, like daughter, admits the tyranny was a precursor to coming climate lockdowns.
This crisis has shown us that, first of all, things can shift very rapidly when we put our minds to it and when we feel the immediate emergency to our livelihoods. And second, that clearly the system, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, that we had before is not sustainable. So I see it as a tremendous opportunity to really to have this great reset and to use this huge flows, of money, to use the increased levers that policymakers have today in a way that was not possible before, to create a change that is not incremental, but that we can look back and we can say this is the moment where we really started to position, nature at the core of the economy.
Those lockdowns are coming. Okay, so as long as I'm watching the migrants and balloons, you're not asking about other important things, Carol. What are the other important things, Daleen? What are the other important things? Please, please, please educate us. What's more important than your safety and, the treason that is taking place with an open border, the whole lot of criminals coming across? Not everyone is a criminal, but it's an invasion of an army. So you tell us, what's no different than the political theater people are so absorbed in. So what's important? Tell me. Tell me. I'm not even going to move off of this. I want to know what's important. Fukushima. Carol. Have you posted on Fukushima, Daleen? Because I did. Those channels are gone now, but... Have you posted on Fukushima, Daleen? I'm asking you if you have posted on Fukushima. I can't get to people's channels. I'm posting the link. I'm in the chat. See, some people think Fukushima is a farce. A whole lot of people think that there's no nuclear waste. I think people stating that something is a distraction Those are the people who want to keep arguing about something. How am I to post? Wow, that's your answer? Okay, moving on. So, what's happening in Niger? Suspends uranium and gold exports amid rumors of imminent French military intervention. Okay, there was a coup in Niger. No doubt, I would not be surprised that the U.S. was behind that coup because we are there training soldiers, and yeah, we're behind a whole lot of coups. Are we looking at another war? And Daleen, because you're chasing balloons, what are you doing here? Why are you watching the balloons?
Don't do it. You'll regret it, man. Trust me.
And so we've been together fighting to try to cancel student loan debt. Student loan debt is a racial justice issue. Racial justice issue. Racial justice issue.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit.
I would say these people, Elizabeth Warren and her colleagues, sure do put out a lot of distractions. It's a racial justice issue? It's race, student loan debt? I guess white people are just getting destroyed by student loan debt? Wow. Exterminated by billionaires. Okay. Sorry, I know. It's a distraction, but I'm here to distract you.
One issue that really grabbed me as urgent were issues related to population. When our foundation first started up, it was focused on reproductive health. That was the main thing we did because I thought, population growth in poor countries is the biggest problem they face.
This is the most important work I'm doing. It's a simple argument. This is the best planet. And so we face a choice as we move forward. We're going to have to decide whether we want a civilization of stasis. We will have to cap population. We will have to cap energy usage per capita. Or we can fix that problem by moving out into space.
Well, we haven't invented new ways of raising the death rate. Famine, pestilence, and war. Those are the ones we have. They manifest differently depending on the technology that you're using, but that's the way. And it won't be just one thing, I don't think. It will be, a variety of things.
Henry Kissinger has been a friend of mine. I've liked him, I've respected him, but we've been friends for a long time, long before my emergence in the world of politics, which has not been too long. But we have been really in I guess you'd say the New York seat a little bit, but we got to know each other very well. He's a man I have great respect for, but it's an honor to have Dr. Kissinger with us, a man of immense talent and experience and knowledge, and I'm going to talk to him for a while, and we're going to learn a lot.
This is probably, I still shake my head at this, this may be the most notorious document in the history of the United States. It's the National Security Study Memorandum 200, Kissinger report, who was the director of the NSC and Secretary of State, submitted this document to Nixon in '74, I think, just a couple years after the Rockefeller Commission report. Now, it's interesting, Kissinger was a protege of Rockefeller. He came up through the ranks and was assisted a great deal, so I'm told. It was declassified in '89, so it was top secret for several years. The focus was, again, population growth, but on the international scene, and you can guess the conclusions. Growth rates are unprecedented. The lesser developed countries are growing much faster than our nations. This will threaten the U.S. imports. It'll threaten our national stability, and we have to do something immediately. The tone of the document is 200 pages plus, was urgent. We have to do something now. It's critical. The sky is falling. Their goals were to have a replacement fertility in developing countries in 1985, and replacement fertility in the lesser developed countries by 2000. So they're actually going to take their program to developed countries first, and then export it to the lesser developed countries. It doesn't make sense because they're more concerned, but I think my interpretation now, knowing what I'm going to tell you next, is I think they needed to be a home base, work out this place where they had control, rather than go to a foreign land and try to work out how they're going to instill propaganda to reduce population. Let's work in our home territory. We control the media. We control the healthcare system. That was probably what they were thinking.
And you mentioned, David, Henry Kissinger, and I think he first was noticed by the Rockefeller family after he wrote a very erudite work on nuclear weapons and nuclear war back in the late 1950s.
Nuclear weapons and foreign policy.
Right. Yes. It was then published, and from that time on, he became pretty close to the Rockefeller family.
Well, he did. Actually, I guess I was the first one who got to know him because he was a member of an organization called the Council on Foreign Relations in New York. And there was a study group at that time that he, as then a young instructor at Harvard, presided at. I was so impressed by him that I introduced him to my brother Nelson, who was then governor in New York and was then considering seeking the presidency of the United States. They became great friends, and actually Henry became Nelson's foreign policy advisor as long as he was in public life, and I think is one of the remarkable international statesmen in the world today. Even 30 years after he was Secretary of State, he is still asked by heads of state when he travels the world for his advice.
Let me go back to the time you said when you came here, it transformed your life. Was there a course, a professor who really made that difference for you?
Yes, there was one course, one seminar of Henry Kissinger, which really opened my eyes. I wasn't accepted to the seminar, but I sat in. I think he let me in because I was German. And it was relatively shortly after the war. There were not too many Germans here. And this created a friendship which has endured until today. And Henry has been several times in Davos. And I think it was mainly participating in his seminars that I developed my interest for geopolitical affairs. I met for the first time Henry Kissinger, and I met at the Kennedy School. I met leaders, and there were only 3 or 4 leaders.
Expansion is design of a military power.
By the way, this was, I believe, Biden's New World Order speech that he was on the floor, I think it was 1991, in Congress, and it was a 4-day-long speech for the New World Order.
The rising tide of global problems that threaten mankind's very survival. We face a tidal change we can hope to manage only through the spirit and mechanisms of international cooperation. The full panoply of threats to our future security and prosperity, the proliferation of deadly high-tech weapons, the accelerating degradation of our planetary environment, economic protectionism and unfair competition, overpopulation and migration, narcotics and aid. These all require, Mr. President, global solutions. Overpopulation, global solutions. Overpopulation, global solutions. Fortunately, the American people comprehend this reality, and precisely for that reason, they expect to see the strong hand of American leadership in world affairs.
To depopulate the planet. Ah, Daleen. So you say to me, Carol, take the time to listen to Kevin Blanche or Dana Dumford, and you might understand where I'm coming from. I apologize. I had a mic crisis. You don't come into somebody else's chat and tell that person that what they are covering is a distraction because you believe what's most important is a particular issue. When I ask if you have posted on it, and you haven't, how important is that issue to you? How important is it? It doesn't matter what we say, it matters what we do. So when you look at what people do, you get what they care about. What do they do? Not what do they say. So how important is it? You're coming in here and telling me that it's a distraction, that I should be looking into the issue that you feel is important. How does that work? Sounds a bit controlling to me. I happen to think what is really important is what is happening on our front door. The treason going on, the border being open, the kids being destroyed, the children being destroyed. There are so many very important issues. But nobody seems to be all that interested in doing anything about it. So, what do we have? We get to talk. And what my concerns are is actually making sure that my subscribers know exactly, pounding it into their head, that we are no longer safe here. You're not safe physically, and you're not safe in terms of the electromagnetic frequencies that are being used as a weapon of war, controlling people's emotions, controlling people's minds, instilling illness, sickness into their bodies. So, at this point, everything is going down. Fukushima, the most important. What about the 100 whales that beach themselves in Australia? What about the sonic weapons that are being used, that are killing aquatic life? What about all of our waters all over the country that are poisoned? There's an awful lot of very, very important issues, and because one issue you happen to think is important and everything else is a distraction, don't bring it into somebody else's live stream. Start posting. Show us how concerned you are. Oh, boy. Pee Wee Herman died. Pee Wee Herman. Wow.
Comedian best known.
Still having mic problems. Oh boy. Dead at 70. That's still relatively young. I don't. Sorry, Pee-wee, but well, you're past with the child pornography and you're exposing yourself in a movie theater. How about this? This was on Asia and BJ React channel, and I'm going to put the post. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Very interesting. Bill Maher and Jordan Peterson.
A Bible story.
Wait a second, a Bible story. This is Jordan.
I love your Bible stories.
Okay, this is a Bible story. So I've been looking at the story of Jonah.
Yeah.
And this is a story that you'll appreciate. So here's what happens to Jonah. He's just minding his own business, and then the voice of God comes to him, and the voice says, "You have to go to this city, Nineveh, because everybody in Nineveh is like, they've strayed off the path, and I'm thinking about wiping them out. But you could maybe go there and tell them like how foolish they are, and they'll straighten up, and then I won't have to destroy the city." And Jonah thinks, there's no goddamn way I'm going to do that. First of all, Nineveh is a city of his enemies.
Babylonia.
It's a city that he's not allied with, and so he thinks, well, you guys can go to hell in a handbasket, and if God wipes you out, that's perfectly fine with me.
Right.
And then he also thinks, like any wise man would, it's like, I see, this is the task you have for me. It's like, there's 150,000 people there. I'm a foreigner. I'm going to go there and tell them how they're misbehaving, and that's going to work out well for me. So he thinks, to hell with that, like any sensible person would. And he doesn't say what he has to say, right? So then he hops on a boat and he gets the hell out of there. Well, it turns out that God's not very happy if you're informed that you have something to say and then you don't say it. So the storms come and the waves rise, and now the ship's in danger. Okay, so what does that mean?
Got in the whale.
Yes, that's right. It means that if you don't say what you have to say when you're called upon to say it, you'll put the whole damn ship at risk. Now, the soldiers figure this out, or the sailors, they figure out, there must be someone on the boat that like isn't right with God, and that's why we're in danger of being swamped. So they will go and ask everybody, and Jonah, to his credit, says, yeah, it's me. You know, I had the voice of conscience made itself manifest to me. I had a task to do. I refused it. I'm screwing things up. And the sailors actually try to save him, but it doesn't work, so they throw him overboard. Now you think, okay, Jonah's got what he deserves because he shut the hell up when he had something to say, and now he's going to die. And you think that's pretty damn rough. And partly what that means is if you hold your tongue when you have something to say, then you're going to put the ship at risk, and you'll be lucky if you don't die. All right, but that's not enough. That's not nearly enough, because that isn't all that happens if you don't say what you're called upon to say. So the next thing that happens is Jonah's drowning away. That's about as bad as it gets. And then this creature from hell itself comes up from the bottom of the abyss and takes him down. And so now he's in hell for 3 days. And so that's the next part of the story, which is that if you're called upon to say what you have to say and you refuse it, like, you'll end up in a place where you wish you were dead.
Wait, not the whale?
Yeah, it's the whale.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same thing, like that in the story, the whale is described as hell. It's exactly the same idea.
In Religulous, the guy who was arguing with me, and he said, this point was very important to him. He said, the Bible does not say whale, it says big fish. Okay, well now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, it's the thing. Well, what it is, it's a representation of the thing that dwells in the darkness.
It's so interesting that you see the lessons in these, and I just always read these things as like super fucking stupid from the Bronze Age, you know. And obviously, they were telling people something. I mean, whoever wrote this had a message in mind.
Well, they were trying to figure out by telling stories how the state itself got corrupted. And this is one of those stories. So the story is, here's how the state gets corrupted. You're called upon to tell your fellow man, enemy or not, when they're not behaving properly. When your conscience tells you to do that, you're called upon to do that. If you don't do that, the whole ship will start to rock.
But do you think the ancients who were reading this at the time, and they read the story about he gets swallowed by the big fish or the whale, you think they got this message? They were like, yeah, but what this really means is when you're called upon, excuse me, I'm talking, when you're called upon, then you step up and do it.
No, I would say it's a step, and it's a dreamlike step in the developing of understanding. So before you fully understand something, you can represent it in a story. Right? It's kind of halfway. A kid will start to understand something by acting it out.
They may. I mean, they may have gotten it, or they may have gotten it on an unconscious level, right?
They got it at an implicit level,
On
which
an
is what
implicit
you.
level.
Yeah, well,
Right.
that's what you
Okay.
get when you watch a story. Is you get it at an
Right.
implicit level, and it's actually very powerful, right? I mean, when people go to movies, most of the time, most people when they go to movies don't sit around afterwards and discuss what the movie meant. They just enjoy the story.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they didn't learn anything. It
Right.
just means they don't reflect on what they learned.
And we need to reflect on what we learned. So, isn't it interesting? When God calls you to speak and you don't, that's a betrayal of God. Why is it that so many Christians are sitting back, not speaking, not doing what is right? That I don't understand. Nor do I understand anyone who's like saying, what was it? Listen to that fake Christian, take God's name in vain. Wow. Okay, information hungry, you're a real Christian. Oh, the sorry state of the collective mind. We have to do what's right. God is calling all of us. We have to do what's right. I'm putting the link in the channel. There's more. And, what did I forget to?
So there.
Oh. And I hope that's the link to Asia and BJ. Oh, yes, really, information hungry. Absolutely, really. I think that was the right link. I'm putting it in again just in case. That's our greatest failure. When we know that we should be doing what's right and we don't, that is our greatest failure, and it's our greatest failure, our greatest betrayal to God. Our greatest betrayal to goodness. That's the spiritual war. But that spiritual war, it's not going up, going on in the sky above us. It's the spiritual war within ourselves. So, very important to speak out, very important to do what's right. And, you know, I mean, Daleen, you think Fukushima, you know, is so important, and yet you're not posting on it? Well, the fact that you're not speaks volumes. Anyway, I don't even think I'm going to get out of here by Thursday. I may get out of here by Friday. I am moving very slowly, having trouble packing my brain, you know, organizing things. It's just not working. And so I may just You can't have an opinion around Carol. Oh, yes, you most certainly can. But do you expect me not to respond to your opinion? I guess so. So, be that force of good. Be that force of good. That's our job. That is absolutely our job. And reflect. There are an awful lot of fabulous lessons in the Bible. And I'd love it if more Christians would learn those lessons and then act on them. So, and do keep that awareness going at all times, because yeah, there's an awful lot out there, and there's an awful lot of people who they got sucked into the evil force instead of the good force. And on that note, I'm going to end a little early. So, good night and good luck. Thank you for showing up. I hope to see you tomorrow. Ciao, guys.